You want to hear something really sad? Every time I look at my analytics on YouTube, there's one particular metric that I always look at, and that is the age of the audience that watches my videos. And I'm very sad to say that 50% of my audience wasn't even alive when I started keeping fish. Yeah, I've been keeping... Hey! What's wrong with you? Cats. Yeah, I've been keeping fish for a very long time, over 30 years. And in all of that time, there's a whole lot of things that I've learned that I wish I would have known when I first started. So I'm going to share all of those things with you today. First is, I wish I would have known how much work it was. When I got my first aquarium, I thought it was just something cool that you set up and you just look at it and it's cool and it's neat and the fish are awesome and everything's great. I didn't realize I was going to be cleaning algae. I was going to be doing water changes. I was going to have to maintain the filter. I was going to have to do all of these things. And then I was going to get more tanks and all of that work was going to get doubled. And then eventually buy a building that has nothing but aquariums in it. I didn't know it was going to get this far out of control, but we chose this because to us, the work is very therapeutic. It's a lot of fun. And when you're done with it, it's very nice. You get to look at what you've done and you get to be very proud that you've set up such a nice environment for these living things to thrive. Yes, it's a lot of work, but don't be afraid of it. It's not something that if you have a 55-gallon aquarium in your living room, you're going to be spending 26 hours a week working on it. No, an hour tops is all it's going to require, and sometimes not even that, depending on how you set it up. It's not a ridiculous amount of work, but it's work nonetheless. If you're trying to get into a hobby that requires no effort whatsoever, this probably isn't the one for you. I wish I knew how expensive this hobby was, and that might scare you. Don't be scared. When I say how expensive it is, I mean when you get that bug, when you go all in on this hobby and all of a sudden you want to get multiple tanks and you want to get this tank for that particular type of fish, and that particular type of fish is rare, so it's very expensive, and I want to feed the best food, which is much more expensive than the stuff that you get at Walmart, and I want to use the high-end best filters and the best lights, and I want to do... When you get hardcore into this hobby and you want the best of everything, you're going to spend a ridiculous amount of money. There are little tricks to save money in this hobby, plenty of those. You can go cheap and buy all of the cheap China lights and filters and all of that junk that gets sold on Amazon. You can buy all that stuff and have headaches for the rest of your life. You can save money that way, I suppose. But the point is, you're going to be buying a lot of stuff. Now, if you have one tank, you enjoy that one tank, you have it set up nicely, and you're not somebody that's always looking to improve every single thing that you do so badly that it becomes almost like an obsession, well, you'll be fine. You're not going to spend that much. You're going to spend a lot of money when you first set it up, and then it's just going to be little maintenance costs. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Buying food, buying water conditioners, all that kind of stuff. But when you go crazy, like my wife and I have, and like a lot of people that are watching this video, it can get pretty expensive. Do not get into this hobby if you think it's cheap, because it ain't. Now, to piggyback on what I just said, I also wish I knew how addictive this was. I wish I knew that it wasn't just going to be one tank and I was going to be happy with that. No, I tend to go a little overboard with everything I do. Can you tell? But I wish I knew that before going in. I wish I had really researched it. Research was kind of limited back then. You had encyclopedias and magazines and that was just about it. So I didn't really know just how addictive this hobby was going to become, that I was going to want to have those fish and I can't put those fish with these fish. So I need to get another tank for that one, and the tank needs to be bigger because those fish get bigger. And then, these fish have bred. I don't want to let the babies die. I need to get another tank to... It goes out of control, and it goes out of control very fast. It is a very addictive lifestyle. It's probably insulting to call it a hobby. It really is a lifestyle that has saved a lot of people. It's a lifestyle that has kept people from doing bad things. It's an amazing lifestyle. And it's a lot better than a lot of other lifestyles out there. So it's a good thing, but this is very addictive. You can become completely obsessed, and almost everybody that gets the bug for aquariums does. I wish I would have known it was this addictive before I even started. But again, wouldn't have changed anything. Now, here I go again, piggybacking on the last one, but I wish I knew where to get the right information. Because back then, when I started keeping fish, you had encyclopedias, books, magazines, and if you were feeling particularly daring, you could go down to your local fish store, and in my case, every single one of the local fish stores where I grew up, the owners were grumpy, and you didn't enjoy yourself going in there to talk to those guys. So I was actually afraid of them. I didn't like getting any advice from those people. So it was hard for me. I had to learn this hobby, a lot of it just by trial and error. And that really sucked. But the good thing is it's 2025. You don't have to do that anymore. So where do you get the best information? Well, you're going to get overwhelmed very fast. That's the first thing that I would tell you. You go to YouTube, which apparently you know how to do, and you're going to search up aquariums. You're going to see so many channels, and it's going to be completely overwhelming. I, as a YouTube creator, I should say, well, you should just stick with me and everything's going to be fine. But I'm not going to tell you that because there are so many channels out there and so many of them have unbelievably good information. If you were to only limit yourself to watching my content, you'd be making a mistake because you'll be missing really good information from those other channels. So explore, find creators, find websites, find places that you connect with for whatever reason, and stick with those, but do it with multiples. And if you're wanting to know about a particular thing, force yourself to fall down a rabbit hole. And what I mean by that is, if you're really wanting to get a new filter and you really want to know what the people are saying about those filters, don't just watch my video. Don't just watch Primetime Aquatics video. Watch a bunch of them and see what everybody's saying about that filter, and then take all of that information, put it all together, and formulate your opinion. There is no excuse for not doing the appropriate amount of research before making a decision. It's all there, and it's pretty much all free. So get as much information as you can, and then make your decisions. And the nice thing is, you can be lazy while doing it. It's fun. Now, this one might sound like I'm being a salesman. I promise I'm not. I wish I knew the impact that live plants have on an aquarium. When I first got into this hobby, I kept Oscars, I kept arowanas, then I got into some other cichlids and things like that. So plants were never really my thing. But if I had known the whole world that would open up and all of the different things that can be done with plants back then, I would have gotten into plants a lot earlier. It was always something that I was very scared of. I thought it's going to be way more difficult than keeping fish, and it's absolutely not. I wasted so many decades not keeping plants, telling everybody all I do is kill plants. They were my nemesis, and I missed out for decades. So don't make that mistake. Understand that plants are a whole nother level to this hobby. You've got breeding. I'm saying the different levels. You've got breeding fish is another level, and aquascaping is another level. Plants are another level. You've got these things that you can add to the hobby that just take it to a new place and make it so much more fun. And not only is it fun to explore plants and do all of those things, but the impact that it has on the aquarium, the water quality that they create, and how it makes your life easier. You have to do less maintenance and all of that. Plants are a beautiful thing. I wish I would have known that early on. But if I'm being honest with you, in the beginning of my fish keeping journey, it was, those are for girls. Now, this one's going to sound kind of sad, and I don't want you to feel sad for me because I'm one of the luckiest people on planet Earth, but I wish I had friends that keep fish and I could talk to about it. I have friends now. I'm saying then. When I first started keeping fish, my boss got me into it. I'm not going to tell the whole story because I've told it 743,000 times, but I went to the pet store with my boss. He was buying fish. I saw an arowana. I fell in love. It was all downhill from there. The only person I knew at the time that had aquariums was my boss. And like 6 months later, I stopped working there and I never spoke to him again. We didn't go out on bad terms, but we just didn't connect anymore. So I had no one that I could talk to about aquariums, and I didn't want to talk to that grumpy old man behind the counter at the fish store. So this was something I did completely on my own, and I hated that. This thing is so much more fun when you have other people to talk to about it. And that applies to every hobby. I'm also a woodworker and a home renovator now. I got a channel, The Money Pit. If you want to follow along with the restoration of my house, Money Pit, it's right there. Yes, I named the channel after the Tom Hanks movie, but all of these hobbies, everything that we do, if you have other people that share that hobby with you, it's so much more fun to be able to not only talk to them about something that you're excited about, that you can't talk to maybe your spouse. I could talk to my spouse, but you might not be able to talk to your spouse about fish keeping because he or she isn't into it. So you have nobody to talk to. Having friends that get it and understand that we're all doing this same thing and we're all trying to accomplish the same goal, it adds yet another level to this that makes it so much fun. Where do you find friends? I'm going to tell you something right now that might sound controversial. Don't find them online. You're not going to find friends on a Facebook group. You're certainly not going to find them in the comment section of a YouTube video. Get out there and get involved with your fish keeping community in your area. Might be more difficult for some. Here, it's non-existent because I live where nobody lives, but if there are aquarium clubs in your area, and I bet there are, join those, go there, and be in a place where you can talk about all these nerdy things, and the people that you're talking to about it understand what you're talking about, and they can share their stories where they've experienced the same thing and stuff like that. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I have that at home. I can talk to my wife. I just texted her earlier about how beautiful this tank behind me is. I love that. I love being able to talk to her about it. But if I want to talk about a new woodworking project I'm working on, she's not interested in that. She just wants to see it when it's done. I can't really bounce anything off of her or share stories because it's just not something that she's into. I wish I had people that I could talk about woodworking with, but there aren't woodworking clubs that I'm aware of. And anyway, who cares? The point is, there are people out there that are into fish keeping just like you are. They're just as crazy as you are, and they probably have a ton of stories that they can share with you about their journey, and you might learn some things. You might make some good friends at the same time. It's a beautiful thing. I didn't have that when I first started. I don't think many people had that back in the day. It's a beautiful thing that it's so easy to do that now. Get yourself some fish keeping friends. And this last one, I'm embarrassed to talk about, and I'm going to talk about it for the 72,000th time on this channel, which is why I saved it for the end of the video, because it is a little embarrassing, but it's also something that I've talked about so much that if I did it in the beginning, even though it's the most important thing, people would just roll their eyes and be like, I'm so sick of hearing this guy talk about this. I wish I knew the aquarium cycle. I didn't have anybody back then. Like I said, I didn't have any friends that kept fish. I didn't have anybody that could explain to me what the cycle was and how much damage I'm doing to my tanks when I tear them down and completely, thoroughly clean them. I didn't know that. At the time, I thought I was doing the right thing, but I didn't realize I was actually doing more harm than good. I didn't have any way of knowing. It's not like the first few pages of every single magazine is explaining that you need to understand the cycle. No, the magazines were made for people that were already experienced fish keepers and all of that kind of stuff. So I didn't even know there was such thing as a cycle. And I kept fish for probably 6 or 7 years before I even knew that there was good bacteria in an aquarium. I didn't know. I would tear down my tanks, thought I was doing the right thing. And I didn't do the right thing. I was making this hobby more work and more harmful and more stressful than it should have been. So I wish I would have known the cycle beforehand. If you're watching this because the clever title that I put on here, I wish I knew these things before buying an aquarium. If that's you, if you haven't bought your first aquarium yet, study the cycle. The good news is I've done a really good video that I'm super proud of, probably the most proud of any video I've done on this channel. It's called The Most Important Video That's Ever Been Made About Aquariums. I'll put a link. Is it there? Is it here? One of these corners, You would think I would know that by now. One of these corners is going to have a little circle with an eye in it. You can click on that and watch that video. I encourage you to watch that. And when you're done watching that, go watch other creators' explanations of the cycle too. Gather up all of that information, figure all of this out. Before you even fill up your first glass box with water, understand all about that cycle so that you don't kill a bunch of fish like I did. So there you go. This one was a lot of fun to do, talking about how miserable the first few years of my fish keeping journey was. But I hope you got something out of it. I hope if you are one of those people that is just getting into this, you're going down that rabbit hole, gathering up as much information as you can. I hope this has opened up your eyes to some things that you might want to think about before you take the plunge and go buy your first aquarium. I hope you don't think that I was in any way encouraging you to not get involved in this hobby. I could not be doing, it could not be further from the truth. I want you to get involved in this. This hobby quite literally saves lives, keeps people out of trouble, keeps marriages together. It does so many beautiful things. I encourage you absolutely to get involved in this hobby, but I just want you to think about these things before you do. Before you waste a bunch of money like I did, before you kill a bunch of fish like I did. That's no fun. Let's keep this fun and exciting, not a big ball of stress. Thank you so much. See you next time.